Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be presenting the Garibay Natural 20s of 2017, the top 10 Garibay Natural 20s of 2017. So what is a Garibay Natural 20? So Garibay Natural 20 is the absolute best tabletop role-playing game products put out in a year. So it's a list. I made this one of these for 2016. And basically this is my list for 2017. So these are the products that I believe are the absolute best tabletop role-playing game products that money can buy, that are printed in the English that are created for the English language. So that's what they are, right? And so basically everything on this list either was released in 2017 or the majority of their release year occurred in 2017. All tabletop role-playing game products are eligible, essentially to be identified as a Garibay Natural 20. So this is my list saying these are the absolute best tabletop role-playing game products that were made in the year of 2017. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how does a creator create a Garibay Natural 20, right? Well, one, I don't think there's any, there's really no creators out there saying, I want to create a Garibay Natural 20. This is really specifically a list where I read, so I read more tabletop role-playing games than I could shake a stick at in 2017. And one of the things I did in 2017 was I very actively followed the industry, and every single new tabletop role-playing game that came out, I paid high attention to. And then also, I do want to talk about this. So I did not pay high attention to every single source book. And the reason why is it is my opinion that the very worst freestanding tabletop role-playing game that was new, that came out as a core rule book that had art, and that actually was released to the public, the very worst tabletop role-playing game, and it had its own set of rules, right? The very worst of those was better than the very best source book. So now that's a very, Scott Garibay opinion. I believe that every source book makes every tabletop role-playing game worse. Paizo's Pathfinder is the absolute proof of this, in my opinion. I think Dungeons & Dragons has absolutely learned this. And I appreciate patience for all my viewers, because I think the reason why I keep talking about it is I really feel that the industry needs to come to understand this, and so we can start iterating games as freestanding games, so we can bring more people into the hobby. Thanks for letting me explain that. Those are my criteria for a Garibay Natural 20. So these are the Garibay Natural 20s. These are tabletop role-playing game products that came out last year that I think are the 10 best that were available to buy with US dollars last year. All right, so let's get to the list, right? All right, so thank you for your patience with my preamble there. So to me, the number 10 on the list is Pugmire by Onyx Path Publishing. So this is a really fun and unique game. This was a game about sentient dogs who could talk, and dogs who essentially live in a world where their masters are kind of in the past, and essentially the entire world, it's as if Earth were populated by dogs, right? And the game goes from that perspective, but it also talks at a high level about dogs remembering man almost as a god, and that it gave it a really unique aspect. I absolutely loved the concept of this game. The rule set was very old school, in my opinion, and so it's one of the reasons why it's coming number 10. I might say a couple sharp comments on some of these games, but again, there were a lot of tabletop role-playing games released last year, probably at least 5 or 10 times the number I have on my list. So every game here I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and I really have a tremendous amount of respect for the creators. And the reason why is it is incredibly difficult to create a tabletop role-playing game. I mean, just ridiculously difficult. You have to do the rules, you have to do the art, you have to do the layout. and then you have to release it, and you have to start it, and here's the big one, you have to finish it. And I have just so much respect for anybody who can do that with any of these tabletop role-playing game, these full freestanding tabletop role-playing games. It's incredibly difficult. So Pugmire by Onyx Path Publishing, one of the very best last year. I really, really liked it. All right, so number 9, Vert by Raven Desk Games. I was really excited to see Vert. Vert is a science fiction tabletop role-playing game. It's based on, and I do think this is a little bit of a mistake, it's based on a novel, right? And so these are challenging because when you have a tabletop role-playing game, there's a high barrier to playing a tabletop role-playing game because you have to be like, okay, hey, come play my tabletop role-playing game. And people are like, well, what is that? And you have to explain what tabletop role-playing games are. And it's challenging. And you're like, they're like, wait, what? It's 4 hours long and it never ends? Like, okay, or maybe you do a one shot and you're smarter than that. But the reality is, whenever you say, oh, plus you got to read this book, it's really tough. It's really tough. I really like the Vert world. It's almost like this alternate reality is kind of impinging on the regular science fiction reality. Vert is a really unique game. The thing I thought was really special about Vert by Raven Desk Games is that it was one of the first tabletop role-playing games created on the Cipher system, the Cipher role-playing game system. Monty Cook had made the Cipher system out of the rule system that Numenera is created from. Just brilliant and beautiful system, and Vert runs on that, right? So it's got a rock solid rules base to it, and honestly, I would love to see a lot. You could stack games 100 high. Just here's a freestanding tabletop role playing game. Vert did it so right. They're like, here's a freestanding tabletop role playing game. Runs on the Cipher rule system. Here's the entire game in one book. Have fun. And that, to me, is the perfect implementation of any tabletop role-playing game. Solid rules, very cool art. It had a dark palette. I wish it had a little bit more of a light palette, but that was fitting for the setting. But a really exceptional game. Really, really liked it. All right, next is Forthright Open Roleplay. Forthright Open Roleplay is free. It is a free tabletop role-playing game. You can download it right now. It's like I think it's almost 200 pages long. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's a lot like, it has a lot of elements from Fate, I think, but it is a universal role-playing system, which means you can run anything with it. So, you can just take Forthright Open Roleplay and start playing an Avatar Last Airbenders. You could pick up, that game on Monday and be playing an Avatar Last Airbender game on Saturday, and that for nothing, for no dollar spent. That's amazing. That is really, really cool. Whenever I say no dollar spent, I'm assuming people have dice, and actually, I think at this point, there's so many charities out there. I think even people who would struggle to even buy dice could probably get those for free somewhere. So you really can play these for $0 down. And also, I think that's so healthy for our hobby, because there are so many barriers to market. I've forgotten, and so also when you're inviting people into our hobby and you're saying, oh, go buy this $60 book, or, hey, come play our game. It has 300 pages of rules. You don't need to buy the rule book. You'll just kind of guess what we're doing. It's a challenge either way. But Forthright Open Roleplay is a huge step forward in trying to make that happen. It was made by Room 209 Gaming. I also want to say Raven Desk Games, Room 209 Games. I'm really excited about these games because these are awesome entries into the tabletop role-playing game scene, and I want to see what they do next. They're really, really powerful properties, really awesome properties, and I'm really excited to see what they do next. All right, so number 7 is City of Mist, a superhero noir tabletop role-playing game. In my opinion, without a doubt, the very best layout, the very best art, the very best fit between setting and art and layout to the setting. Nobody even came close to City of Mist. It was Son of Oak Game Studio. They just knocked it out of the park. It was just such a beautiful game as far as the physical book and what was in it and how it actually melded all that together.